Of Native American Heritage Month, many Minnesota schools are taking part in a one-read.
Yeah, the Shakopee and Washington Sioux community donated 20,000 copies of the book Voices from Pejuhutazizi, that's Dakota Stories and Storytellers. So we're joined this morning by author Teresa Peterson to tell us about this book. Thank you so much for coming in and sharing the story with us.
Well, good morning. Thank you for having me.
Tell us about the book.
Yeah, sure. So the book itself is a compilation of stories across different, stories tell of place, transmit traditions, values, things like that. But it's a compilation of stories that were told by my great-grandpa, who heard stories a long time ago as well, and then from my uncle. My Uncle Super, Walter Labatt Jr. Yeah.
Great-grandpa, uncle, you, so at least 3 generations here.
Well, it actually extends 5 generations because some of these stories are back from my great-great-grandmother who told stories.
Wow.
Yeah.
So I'm just thinking, when you hear these stories and you write, what's it like for you to record some of these stories from some of these members of your family?
Well, actually, it started a really long time ago when I went off to college. My mom gave me this book, actually, and this was from my great-grandpa, the stories he wrote down, hearing from elders of the time, including my great-great-grandmother. And I didn't think much of it, and at one point I read it, and I was like, wow, this is about my great-great-grandmother, and it had such an impact on me. It really made me start questioning about who I am as a Dakota woman, where I come from, the people I come from, the resiliency and strength that has been really carried forward. Really had a big impact on my own sense of belongingness, and that, stories really matter.
And stories do matter, and stories need to continue to be told, especially to our children. Talk to us a little bit about this One Read program.
Right. Well, I don't know about you, but I think back when I was in school and we didn't hear accurate stories about Dakota people, Native people in general. In fact, it was kind of like we were relegated to the past and that we no longer existed. So this was really about bringing forward, accurate perspectives of Dakota people told in their own voice. And so I'm excited about, Minnesota's youth really gaining this. It's going to make a big impact on our future leadership and, decision making and just relationship building in general.
You're talking about getting into 20,000 classrooms. That's a big deal.
Yeah, it was a big deal. When we heard that the Shakopee and Washington Sioux community even selected this book, we were just thrilled, and then 10,000 went out the door within less than 6 hours, and so then they dedicated another 10,000. So yeah, it's incredible.
Can you talk about that, because you touched on something I think is really important, but the representation of that, making sure that your voice is heard in the room, and now your voice is being amplified in a really big way.
Right. So again, like just really feeling like invisible. Our people have really been invisible across like media, in school, all of that. If I think back about when I was in school and you open the textbook and there's a tiny little, section.
That little tiny paragraph.
Yes. So just to have this opportunity to really bring perspective, contemporary, we have contemporary tribal governments, our culture, our values, all of that, and our story and perspectives about things that impacted all of us are included in this book.
There is some Dakota words in here, Dakota language, also a glossary in here. So, we as Minnesotans, we use Dakota words quite a bit. I mean, we're talking about B'day Makaska, Minnesota, Minnehaha, all of those words. For people who might think, oh, I don't know if this is right for me, what do you say to them?
You're probably speaking Dakota probably every day.
Right.
Yeah, you may not know that, or you may even be mispronouncing them too.
Yeah, for sure.
But this book gives you an opportunity, especially around place names and values, to really learn a little bit about, where we live here, where we all call home.
I'm curious, for people who may not necessarily have access to the book, but for people who may be looking to learn more about Dakota culture, where should they go? What resources should they tap into? Well,
I think they can go first to, Shakopee, Washington Sioux community, the Understand Native Minnesota website. I think there's a lot of resources there. You can sign up for their newsletter. They have a whole list of resources they send out periodically. The book itself has a number of resources that people can check into as well. Yeah.
What's your favorite story from the book?
My favorite story, again, comes from this original piece that my great-grandpa had written down about the journey of my great-great-grandmother, Tashina Suspechowi, dragonfly shawl woman. And her journey is, you know, she lived in the 1800s and experienced, you know, the war and the exile, and lived up in Canada, and then her journey, and then making her way back home. It just had a huge impact on me, what she went through, what she's endured. She's like the resiliency and strength that she brings forward. Yeah, just had a huge impact on the way that I see myself and my connection to my people.
I'm curious to know, because I'm guessing when you were younger, that book did not mean as much to you as it does now.
Right,
I
right.
mean, it takes on a totally different meaning for you now.
Yeah,
at this age,
absolutely. Right? So then when I was older, I started reading the stories more and then sharing them with others, and they were like, can we get a copy of that? And I was like, there are no more copies. Yeah. So that was the impetus for, you know, basically rewriting the stories. I had visited with my great aunt Cerise, who had written this, and we agreed that we would redo that. And unfortunately, you know, life happens, and took a while to make it happen, but and then my uncle joined me, who is our family historian and storyteller. He's amazing.
I mean, I imagine that was an emotional experience for you too, to be able to write this with your uncle, to have these discussions with your own family members, and to go back that far.
Yeah, it really took probably over 20 years to get this done, and not to say that it takes that long to write a book, but it does if you're on a healing journey.
A healing journey. If there's anything you want anyone to take away from this book, what would you want that to be?
I think that we just have so much to contribute to you know, modern society and our values, and just like the human aspect of you know, storytelling that can bring people together. I think that's the biggest thing. And if we all, you know, I think about you know, what we were told in school at the time and now where we're at, and how much stories can really impact and humanize people and bring clearer understanding for each other. And then, you know, we have sense of belonging, and everybody matters. Yeah, I would say that that's the biggest thing for me.
Teresa, where can people find the book?
Well, of course, the publisher, the Minnesota Historical Society Press. Yeah, and then of course your favorite bookstore will also carry them. Yeah.
Fantastic.
Teresa, thank you so much for joining us. We appreciate this conversation.
It's my pleasure.